Hi, we're from Daily Wonder. I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Jennifer.
And today we're going to talk to you about boundaries around screen time. So here you are, just get comfortable while you watch your screen and listen to us tell you about screen time.
About how you should get off your screen.
Yeah, this is a hot topic for parents because kids are often motivated by their screen time. So they know they need to get through a certain component of their learning so that they get their screen time. And I know that a lot of parents try to incorporate screen time into learning, but there's something so exciting about it. And a lot of studies will tell you that the screens, the way that they're set up, particularly for children who get to play games on them, is that they create a chemical response that provides dopamine to the brain, which is our feel-good, happy chemical in our bodies. So when we have a computer that's delivering this chemical reaction for us, it's very hard to then get that same dopamine from a hug or from finishing a page in a book or lunch with a friend. And so we are always seeking that really strong dopamine hit of screen time. So we're going to tell you some ideas with the knowledge that this is very hard. If you're going to try to scale back on screen time, we're with you in spirit, but it's going to be hard.
Mm-hmm. And I also think it's like all these questions really they're so woven together. So again, we would say that, if you track children's will forces and motivation and ability to persevere over the last 40 years or however many years since screens have become more predominant in our lives, I'm quite sure it's connected. So, that's a big reason children lack motivation is because they get everything so quick and satisfying through the screen. So knowing all that and knowing what Rebecca's saying, it's not easy to get your children off screens, but I think we might just at first state what the ideal would be. The ideal scenario is that your children aren't using screens during the school week.
That's ideal.
That would be ideal because then, and let's say it is like, I don't know if I can say this. It's like
you can say whatever you want.
It's like crack, right? Like if you're getting or any intense addiction, your child's going to be grumpy and angry and moody and uncomfortable as they're coming off of this addiction. But if you can tough it out for 3 weeks, you will see a different child who starts to love learning for the sake of learning and sinks into the joy of things that are slower paced and take more time. Like it will happen.
Mm-hmm. And it's certainly, I remember reading an article about how young children particularly, they don't have the intellectual capacity to even understand how a computer works. And so we might consider the tools that we provide for our children should match their capacities to intelligently understand how a tool works. So when we give them a spinning wheel, they can understand how the wheel spins and how the pedal makes the cog underneath the wheel spin and everything works together and out comes the carded wool. Whereas to understand how a computer works doesn't quite, for a young child, doesn't work yet. So even that distance between themselves and the tool that they're using is a bit, it's a bit foreign for them. So in a perfect world, these things would be held back until high school or so. Mm-hmm. And yet here we are.
Right. And so in a less than perfect world, if you could imagine not using screens during the school week and then it's a treat that Friday after school they get to watch a show or play on their iPad and that happens on the weekends and then you get back into your school routine, over time you would see a lot of changes in your children's behavior and you could start bringing in more of those activities that build the will forces, like the joy of getting a piece of beeswax and modeling it and taking that time could become more nourishing and more engaging than it might have been before. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think it's kind of like when I've thought, okay, I have to quit coffee and there's just a huge amount of resistance because I don't want to, but I know it's better for me. And I'm sure some of you right now are like, oh God, the resistance, the thought of taking them off the screen means I'm going to have to be parenting more often and it's going to get crazy and they're going to be whining and complaining and moaning. Yes, to a degree, yes, for a short period of time, but then they will be easier to manage. It will be easier to parent them because they'll become used to what's expected and they won't be able to whine and get what they want. And you won't feel the stress and the guilt every time they're like, oh, can I just get it now? Oh, can I do that? Because it's so addictive.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I just have to say a word too. It's hopeless to think that we can support our children to lower their dependency on screens if we ourselves are not making that same change or step in our own lives. So it's hard, but it does pay off. I think it does pay off.